Hey, everybody. Well, it's official. Geoff Collins has been fired as the Georgia Tech head coach. The news just broke, and I have been, frantically scrolling Twitter for the past freaking week looking for this news to break, and it finally did. And the nightmare is finally over. And I feel a great deal of relief after the game, UCF game yesterday. I wasn't as devastated as I normally would be of that loss, that game that we should have won, because I knew that it would lead to this. And so it has finally happened, and Geoff Collins has been fired and goes down as the worst coach in Georgia Tech history. A lot of people have come to expect this from Georgia Tech, just think that we're bad, but I think that they have really short memories. Like, we are not used to this at Georgia Tech. This is not like a normal thing. We're not just supposed to go 3-9 every year. We are supposed to be a program that is at least a bowl team, and and should be competitive in at least the Coastal every year. We can be, and I don't want to hear anything less. Okay, but Geoff Collins has run the school, the football team, the program, and the reputation of Georgia Tech into the dirt these past 3.5, 4 years. It's his fourth year of being the head coach at Georgia Tech. And in my opinion, he should have been fired after last season, after he had lost every recruit out of the recruiting class. They all decommitted, and he had lost the locker room. All of our best players transferred out, and he had lost all of our best coaches. They all left. After that was kind of my breaking point. I said that he should be fired, and we brought him back for this fourth year because of the buyout. That's really what it was. When we brought Geoff Collins on, they gave him this contract for 7 years, and it was just not deserving of that. I think it was our AD that was trying to make a point and trying to really commit to transitioning away from the triple option. And will you turn the shit off?
No,
Turn the fucking shit off, man. I'm filming a video and you're distracting me, dude. Come
Those are
on.
the Cardinals.
Fuck off, man. Fuck. I don't even know what I was saying. Fucking idiot walks in here and is loud, so I'm sorry. This is huge news for Georgia Tech. Geoff Collins' tenure has been plagued with nothing but embarrassing historical loss after embarrassing historical loss. Okay, he came in 2019 and went 3-9, and that was the season where it was just. I mean, I kind of understood back then because it was his first year. He had an all triple option roster trying to run this offense. We kind of give him a mulligan for that year, but that year included a historic loss to Citadel, which ironically ran the triple option as an FCS team that ran the triple option. We're trying to transition away from that and lose to them in the first year, so that was an embarrassing loss for us, number one. And then that same year, shutout for the first time ever at home, or the first time since like the 50s at home against Virginia Tech, 45-0, historical loss. 2020, we lose the sort of infamous game, 73-7 against Clemson. That is the biggest in that series history, the most lopsided victory in that series history. Of course, we lost to Syracuse that year, who had gone 1-11. We were their only win that year. And then the third year, of course, he lost to Northern Illinois. At home in a whiteout in the first game of the year, you got 8 months to prepare and lose to Northern Illinois, that a team that hadn't won a single game in the year before. And, of course, ending his last third season with the loss to Notre Dame and Georgia at the end of the year by a combined score of 100-0. And then, of course, we come out this year and get shut out again at home, 42-0 by Ole Miss. And it has just beaten me down. It's beaten every Tech fan that is around. It's beaten us down. It has killed any. There was excitement when he got here because it was a big deal that we were finally moving away from the triple option. And it killed all of that excitement. Slowly, our attendance has dwindled. Our fan base is not excited about Georgia Tech football anymore, and we are on life support right now. A lot of people questioning whether Georgia Tech even cares about football enough to, I mean, it's like it's bad when you have to start questioning whether you're even bought in. And from what I've seen, we're not. We're just not. If you want to be really good in today's college football, you have to, invest the money and energy and whatnot. And it doesn't seem to be that way. Although I do think Geoff Collins did get more investment and money from the athletic association than Paul Johnson did. That was one of Paul Johnson's gripes when he left, was that he wasn't getting, of course, any support from the school. They didn't want to spend any money on football or anything like that. Seems like we're taking steps in the right direction, but this was, it is what it is. This was just a bad hire coming off of the triple option. It was just a bad hire. I don't think that Georgia Tech needs to go back to the triple option. A lot of people do. A lot of people look at this and think that this is some kind of sign that Georgia Tech will never be good, will never be competitive unless we run the triple option. And that's just not true. Geoff Collins was a bad hire from the start, and he was pretty much all talk and all marketing. And he took, of course, he followed his previous job. He had only had 2 years' experience as a head coach at Temple. He took over Matt Rule's 11-1 Temple Owls and had him going at about 7-5, 8-4 in his 2 years. So, he takes, that team and takes them down a step. So, whatever on earth possessed us to give him a 7-year contract with this buyout, which again falls on the AD, athletic director, Todd Stansberry. Todd Stansberry gave him this contract in which he is paid the entirety of his contract if he's fired before the 4th year, which guess what? It's before the 4th year. So he's owed that entire thing. And now Stansberry's job is on the line because Stansberry repeatedly backed up Collins and repeatedly said, this is my guy, I'm sticking with him, and he's married to himself, and now Collins is fired, and now Todd Stansberry is expected to be fired too. They're having a meeting, the GTA Athletic Association is having a meeting about that tomorrow, and they're going to determine the fate of Todd Stansberry. So, but for now, it is confirmed, it is official, Geoff Collins is out as the head coach of Georgia Tech, and it is... it had to have been a lot because Georgia Tech is very famously slow for doing these things, like very slow to fire a coach. And so this is a pretty big deal. You have to be a certain special kind of bad for us to bite the bullet and fire you and pay you all that extra money as opposed to just riding out the season and letting the contract, the buyout lower. You have to be a special kind of bad, and that's what Geoff Collins is. Just in over his head. When he brought in his staff from Temple, those guys were in over their heads too. He held on to them too long. In fact, his defensive coordinator, Andrew Thacker, who he brought from Temple, he was supposed to fire him last year like he did his offensive coordinator, but wound up keeping him, which he shouldn't have. He's still on the team. I expect him to be fired too. They should. He shouldn't be the defensive coordinator right now. But he waited too long. After last year's disaster of a season, he finally made some staff moves and finally brought in a good staff, but it was too late. They could not, the staff, might be better than we had last year, but it was not good enough, and now we're at rock bottom, to be honest. So, Geoff Collins... I don't hate the guy. I'm not going to come on here and just dump on him. Like, a lot of people absolutely hate him, and I hate the product that he's put on the field. I couldn't hate it more. He has run the Georgia Tech program into the dirt, and not only that, our reputation too. So people think that we're some kind of Vandy or something, like we're supposed to be just a shitty, awful team, and we're just not. Okay, and that's on. That's Geoff Collins. But he's like Geoff Collins. He doesn't have a personality. He's a robot. I've watched most of his press conferences. They're all the same. He's like a politician that just says the same things over and over like a robot on repeat. You could talk for hours and not actually say anything. You don't get any information from his press conferences, and the media members, God bless them, they ask him tough questions sometimes, and he has this amazing ability to skirt around it and not answer a single thing and not really give them an answer at all. And so that's very frustrating. Geoff Collins isn't a very likable person just because of the way he handles his press conferences. Sometimes he does come off as like smug, like he's people ask him about his performance on the field, or people ask him, well, Geoff, what do you say about fans that are might be pissed off, and he like chuckles at it. So that does rub a lot of people the wrong way, including myself. But for the most part, he's just robotic and just says the same things over and over. And listen, you got to give him credit. He has the right vision for Georgia Tech. I'm not surprised that this happened, that he got the job, because Georgia Tech was in desperate need of somebody who got it, like got what Georgia Tech could be. We're in the heart of Atlanta. We should be recruiting at a high level. We should be like a cool, swagged out program. We should be, kicking ass. And Geoff Collins got that, and that won a lot of people over, including myself. He wasn't wrong. He just didn't have the capability to lead a football team and coach them up and develop the players. And he can recruit like hell. But look, and I held on to him, but look, he had good recruiting class right when he got here. He had the best recruiting class in Georgia Tech history. The second year, he had a great recruiting class. The third year, he had a great recruiting class lined up, and it only fell apart after we went 3-9. He had a top 25 class lined up last year, and they only started decommitting after we went 3-9, after they saw that he could not develop, he could not put a good product on the field. Last year, it was the do or die year, not this year. We're just slow. Georgia Tech's just slow to react to this kind of thing. But last year was the year for him to put a respectable product on the field, make a bowl or something like that. He had a good roster. He still has a good roster. This team could have beat UCF last night, but the UCF game last night was a perfect example of all of the problems in the Geoff Collins era. There has been no improvement of these problems that have plagued him from the time he got here to yesterday. It is the penalties, the team, the unpreparedness. The players look lost. They look like any kind of tempo on an offense run, our defense is just has no idea how to act. And supposedly, for a defensive guru, which Georgia Tech, Geoff Collins was supposedly a defensive guru. Apparently, his defense has been terrible since he's got here, and it's bad. And so we have had defensive problems. Our defense should be what's carrying us, right? Because last time I checked, a transition from the triple option didn't have nothing to do with the defense, and our defense has been horrible. That's unexplainable. That's unexplainable. So those problems, special teams problems. Special teams problems are a sign of a problem with the coaching staff. Special teams should not be an issue on any team worth their salt that knows what they're doing. Should not be. And the penalties, unprepared, the players just look lost. They're not being developed. Jeff Sims is marginally better than he was when he got here 3 years ago. And those are the issues that have plagued Geoff Collins since he got here and haven't got any better. That's what got him fired. That's what had him lose against, frankly, a worse UCF team roster-wise than us. We were something like 1 for 3 or 4 on field goals, 4 blocked punts this year. How does that even happen, dude? How does that even happen in year 4? We didn't have that many blocked punts. you know, in his first 3 years, well, all of a sudden we have this block punt problem appearing. You can't even get a punt off. He can't even get a punt off. And so it's things like that get him fired. And he's gone, and it's about time. And so I'm ready to move on. Geoff Collins, yes, the worst Georgia Tech coach in our school's history. Even Bill Lewis. Bill Lewis, back in the 90s, was our coach. And Georgia Tech fans so haunted by him, they censor his name whenever they're referring to him. And Geoff Collins has a worse record than Bill Lewis. So he has taken the crown as the worst coach in Georgia Tech history, possibly detrimental to the entire program. We'll have to see where we keep going from here. I think this next hire is very important. And from the rumors I've been hearing of the candidates, it seems like we have a good list of candidates lined up for to take a look at this job, because which is good. And expect a video from me about the future head coaching candidates, because I will be coming out with that. As far as the interim coach, still hasn't been announced, but word on the street is it's Brent Key, our O-line coach, which I'm conflicted about, because on one hand, I have patience, because that is a very hard position to build depth and transition over from the triple option. I have a lot of patience with that. And of course, but year 4, you would expect it to be a little bit better than it is, but it is what it is. Brent Key does have a good track record. He coached the offensive line for Alabama when they were winning the national championship. And so he's expected to take over, not Chip Long, probably Chip Long. Well, first of all, Chip Long, our offensive coordinator, was just hired at the end of this past year. And so he's only been here for a short time, and he's probably got enough on his plate running the offense. So I guess that's the reasoning behind the Brent Key as interim. So we'll have to see how that ends, but this season's a wash anyway. So don't expect I don't really expect much out of Brent Key. We'll see how that goes. I'm going to be supporting him, and we'll have to see how that goes. Hopefully the defensive coordinator, Andrew Thacker, is fired, and we also name an interim DC, because that is a Collins guy that actually survived the staff purge from last year for some reason, and hopefully he's gone too. Hopefully the athletic director's gone. You can't come in here, cost the school $10 million, and then by hiring this horrible coach and then sticking by him like that, and then having to fire him in the 4th year because he's literally running the program out of the dirt. So hopefully our athletic director is gone too. But guys, that's my thoughts on the Geoff Collins being fired. My attitude right now as a whole is relief. I'm glad it's over. I'm looking forward to the future. We're talking about some very good, exciting candidates. Be on the lookout for that from me. And hopefully the worst days of Georgia Tech football are behind us, and we can all look at this in the future and say, geez, you remember that shit? That was terrible. And so hopefully this is all behind us. We're going to make a great hire. He's going to take Georgia Tech football to what I know it can be, which is a kick-ass fucking football program. All right? So go Jackets, and I'll see you guys next time.